from the Mistopheles Studios, it's Dark Fringe Radio.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Dark Fringe Radio. Tonight, we have an incredibly special guest. Actually, I was really excited about this guest because, a third party actually reached out to me regarding her. And when I found out, I was like, oh, absolutely. And her name is Angie Kuschel. And she is a psychic medium and empath. And we'll be talking to her today about her journey from being a paranormal investigator to eventually discovering her mediumistic and psychic abilities. We'll also discuss her book, The Way I See It, a medium's account of her paranormal journey, chronicling her journey, of course, into finding her abilities and going from there on. Angie, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Listen, this is a cool thing that kind of everything aligned, and I'm really excited about your book. So that'll be out by the end of the year, correct?
That's correct. Slated to be out by the end of the year.
Okay,
Pushing for
very good.
November, but more than likely December.
Trust me, I know how that is with,
Yes.
publishing, and then, I know, trust me. But no, this is awesome. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about this and your journey, of course, and this is what the book chronicalizes, of course, your whole journey into where you are now. But let's go back and talk about, how you kind of figured out, your abilities, and talk about your near-death experience, of course, and, what happened and how it led to all that.
Okay, perfect. I'm actually a natural-born psychic medium. The way I say it, I talk to dead people all my life. When I was younger, the thing is, I just didn't know they were dead. I just kind of considered them my friends, and I assumed that everybody talked to them. So that's kind of where I started. Now, as I got a little bit older and being raised Roman Catholic, that was kind of pushed to the side for various reasons. One, religious expectations. Two, nobody really wants to be the weird person that talks to dead people. So I kind of pushed that all to the side. I ignored it. I kind of lived my life. And, always had a lot of anxiety because I was always empathic, and that kind of affected me anytime I was around people, even though I did not really know what that was. I just knew that I felt like I had a lot of social anxiety. Come to find out why, but that was part of my journey.
Yeah. And let me pause real quick, if I could, before you go any further. But how is that for like a young woman? I mean, growing up as an adolescent man and growing up as, going through that whole stage, becoming, from a child to a man, and a woman to a girl to a woman, it's already stressful enough. I mean, and then to add that extra layer onto it, how did you handle all that?
Not well. I'll say that. I found myself eventually being pretty reclusive, although I do consider myself to have a relatively normal childhood and, upbringing, but I found myself pulling away from people more and more. As I got a little bit older, I didn't like to be in large groups of people. And then it kind of even got a little more pronounced. We're even going to dinner with friends at a restaurant that was busy. I was hearing things that I didn't want to know about from, feeling things from people, tables and tables away. And I didn't want to know those things. And I was distracted from conversations that I was supposed to be having with the people that I was there with. And it just got to the point where, again, I really thought I had a severe case of social anxiety. And walking into a place, I'd have to amp myself up in a parking lot before I'd even be able to enter a place that I knew there would be a crowd of people. So it was a very difficult decades probably for me. I forced myself into a lot of things just because I didn't always want to be alone. I just knew that it was very hard for me to be around larger groups of people. Keep me in a group of 4 or 5 people that weren't having a particularly difficult day, I'm doing fine. Get me in a restaurant or something, or a bar. Yeah. That could be a very stressful situation. I'd go from perfectly good mood to all of a sudden I was anxious, I was upset, I was frustrated, I was nervous, and all of that was energy from other people. And it took me a long time to be able to identify and separate that. And part of this journey was me figuring out how to do that. And I was fortunate. It took a little while, but once I kind of got to the point where I understood it a little bit better, then it's become second nature to me.
Yeah, yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit. I wanted to talk about the incident that kind of like progressed this for you, obviously, figuring out kind of things like that they weren't what you thought they were, and you actually figured out, hey, listen, I'm not crazy. But let's talk about, were you a paranormal investigator first before you had the incident, or did you have the incident first before it happened?
Well, my second near-death experience.
So if you had multiple, so me and you
I've
have a
had
lot in
two.
common. Me too.
Yes. My first
Yeah,
one
yeah.
was when I was very young, 18 months old.
Oh, wow.
That was the first near-death experience that I had. And I think that was kind of what catapulted everything for me.
Mhm.
And then again, pushed it all aside, all of that. And then
Mhm.
after my second near-death experience, I came out of the coma drug-induced coma that I was in for, to be honest with you, time is a blur.
Yeah.
And for no medical reason, I was unresponsive. I was there, my vitals were good, but I would not respond to anybody that was actually in the room. But according to everybody that was there, I was having full-blown conversations.
Wow.
We can say whatever that was, but I knew that
Mhm.
when I actually came to and was aware of what was going on, my entire life was different. And I felt that everything that I pushed aside, as someone once said to me, it came for you and you denied it and you pushed it aside for too long. So when it had the opportunity to come back, it's not going to give up this time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it did not
Mm.
give up. It was relentless.
Mhm.
And there was everything about my life changed to me being able to really connect with my spirit guides. I was protected in ways that I wasn't protected before. I was given
Mhm.
information that I was now accepting of.
Mhm.
And I'll give you kind of the Reader's Digest version of what happened. I was in a very toxic relationship that I didn't know was very toxic at the time of this near-death experience. When I woke up,
Mm.
all of a sudden he smelled like rotten meat. And part of this is
Wow.
chronicled it's in the book, because this is kind of the intro of where it came to me. And
Mhm.
I was having really crazy dreams, and I kept hearing specific words over and over again that I understood what the word was, but I didn't know the context and what it was trying to tell me or explain to me. And the
Mhm.
way I explained it, it was I was watching 100 movies at the same time in fast forward and reverse. All these pieces I knew that they were important, but I didn't know how to put them all together. And then one very normal night, all of a sudden I was told exactly what to do. And I went
Mm.
and I found the information that was missing, that put all the clues. And all of a sudden the puzzle was very clear. I knew exactly what it was. And where my paranormal journey started was not long after that,
Mhm.
because I, at that point, had to make some changes in my life. Got it, needed that, no problem. But
Mhm.
then other stuff was coming to me and I didn't know what to
Mhm.
do with it. And I was afraid of it. And I honestly was under the belief that because of this medical incident that I had, that I must have lost oxygen to my brain for an extended period of time and I lost my mind.
Mm.
So when I joined the paranormal investigation team, my goal was to prove that I actually was having a mental breakdown and prove
Mm.
that all of this was wrong, all of this was a fluke, and that
Mhm.
it doesn't exist. Because that would
Mhm.
have been much easier for me as far as I was concerned. Fine, I'll go get some
Certainly.
psychotic medication. We'll call
Certainly.
this a day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I found the team, went to an event, um, wanted to somehow find an answer. Tell me what's going on. I was trying to telepathically communicate with anybody for them to give me the answer, and it never came. So no answers were kept. So I kept searching for an answer and kept searching. So then I saw that War Party Paranormal was holding interviews for investigators. And I thought, well, if anybody could prove I'm crazy, it's probably going to be them. So I went for the interview, and the interview they know now that I kind of padded the resume that I sent them because I really wanted an opportunity to at least be heard. Turns out that the things that I included on the resume were the same things they called into question about who I really was.
Yeah.
They pretty much called bullshit.
Right.
So when I joined the team, nobody believed that I was a psychic medium. I didn't believe it, but I told them that I was because I wanted an opportunity. So I was tested by the two founders, original founders, John and Scotty, and they put me through the ringer and they tested me every step of the way. And John and Scotty both pulled me aside and said the reason, for years, by the way, not just for a night or two, for years, they put me in situations that they knew what was going on to see if I knew what was going on. And I proved myself time and time again, trying to figure. Eventually, I had to say, I went from one point saying, I want you to tell me that I'm crazy and this isn't real, to actually trying to prove to them that I wasn't wrong. I don't remember when the switch happened, but it did.
Wow.
So then it was kind of my goal to get better and to get more in tune and to stop second guessing myself. And they allowed me the opportunity to say things that even if they seemed so out of the ordinary or so unrealistic, I could just say them to them in absolute comfort. And they had the data and the information to back up what I was saying was correct or not. So after multiple years of them really putting me through the ringer, I started to have confidence in what I was saying and what I was doing. And that's when I really became comfortable saying to other people, okay, I'm a psychic medium. This isn't just a fluke. I've proved it to myself and I proved it to the biggest cynics that there are. And so that's kind of how I got into the paranormal investigation. I really wanted to be crazy.
No, listen, there's nothing crazy about it. I love doing it myself. So I understand it. I understand, the passion people have for it. And so
absolutely.
It's a certain kind of breed of people, but there is a passion about it. But let me ask you this. When you first realized that you were, you had these abilities, how did you differentiate, let me say, your own emotions versus the emotions of others that are around you? Like, how do you like figure that out? Like maybe if you're having a bad day, you're pissed off because you stubbed your toe on the corner of the bed or something, and you're in a bad mood. How do you figure that out?
For me, I started to really look at what I was feeling and when. I'm walking through the grocery store and I think I'm fine. All of a sudden I feel sad or I feel anxious. I would stop what I was doing and try and identify that. Am I in some kind of immediate danger? Or is somebody around me having some sort of a emotional moment? And I generally would look around and I would somehow be able to zone in on where that energy was coming from. So and when I say 100 times, I had to isolate those feelings. This is me or this belongs over there. And every time I did that, I would put it in a category, somebody else, mine. If it was mine, I needed to address it right away. If it was somebody else's, I didn't have any business with it. And just through practice and repetition, and I have to check myself. Okay, is this me? And I still have to check myself to know whether it's me or not, especially when I'm on an investigation, because I have to, I kind of consider to have a dial, so to speak. When I go on an investigation, not anymore, but when I first started doing investigations, I would wide open. Whatever wants to come and talk to me, come talk to me.
You got to be careful with that.
I learned the hard way. That's not the smart thing to do.
No.
So now on my normal average day, I keep that dial down to about 2 because I want my spirit guides to be able to speak to me if I'm in some sort of danger or if I need to know something. But for the most part, it stays at that 2. I go on an investigation, I'll crank it up to about an 8. And I kind of have this rule in my house that if you need to talk to me and it's important, I have 3 wind chimes that are hanging in my house. If you just want to say hi, you can tinkle the lightest one. I have a medium and then I have a super heavy. If it's important, you can get my attention that way and I will pay attention. Other than that, I'm off limits. I have to close it down because I can't. Other than that, I will never get any sleep. Somebody always has something to say.
Of course. And it doesn't matter what time either, right?
It doesn't matter what time. So I kind of have had to have that rule in my house and in my personal space
That's good.
so that I'm not constantly interrupted.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad you put parameters like that. That's very smart,
Yes.
because a lot of people don't know how to, or even think about doing that because they'll just leave themselves open. And then it's just like, you could really, take a toll on yourself because you're just basically.
It absolutely can. And
Right,
and I did for a long time. And you're exhausted, you're stressed out, you're frustrated, you're over emotional, everything. And I had to put a stop to it.
Let me ask you this. It's interesting that you talked about, the paranormal group that you're involved in, and you had a lot of skepticism from the obviously two founders from War Party Paranormal. But let me ask you this: in your personal life, is that have there been skeptics in your personal life as well, and how have you handled that? If you don't mind me asking.
Will say that I appreciate someone who has some skepticism. Nobody wants someone who believes everything.
Yeah.
And I've just kind of led my life as if you have a question and you want to genuinely know something, I will answer it. If you're going to come to me with criticism or judge my belief system, then I can't give you the time of day. However, have I been challenged? Absolutely. And I like to say that I am above putting people in their place. But also in the book,
you might catch an off day though, right?
Well, and actually in the book there's an example, and the guy's name, his code name is Jeff, and he approached me in a bar, and my boyfriend at the time told him who I was. And I was not part of this conversation. I happened to come walking over, and he said, I don't believe in all of that. And I said, well, that's fine, you don't have to. And he goes, I think you're a liar. And I said, and that's okay too. My job is not to convince you of anything. And he said, well, if you really were a psychic, then you would stick up for yourself. And I said to him, plain, short, and simple, I said, well, Linda says hi. Linda happened to be his dead fiance.
Oh,
and he instantly started crying in the bar. And now I felt horrible about it after. I really did. And I apologized to him. But he challenged me and challenged me and challenged me.
You gave him a supernatural uppercut. That's what you did.
And I just gave him a little snippet, and then I walked away, and then I came back and apologized.
Yeah.
But I had someone do it at Comic-Con or UltraCon.
Really?
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
So
and I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Not wild. But usually I just say, you don't have to believe, that's fine.
You're much nicer than I would be.
I'd
bring back all the dead relatives. I'd be like, grandma, grandpa,
The kid that came up to me and he said, so you can do this anytime? And I said, yeah. He goes, like now? And I said, yeah. He said, like now? And I said, yeah. He said, like now? And I said, are you trying to ask me if I will do something right now? He said, yeah. And I looked at him. I said, your grandmother said, straighten yourself out because you're headed for some big trouble.
Oh.
He looked at his friend, looked down, looked at me, and walked away.
Damn right. That's so great. Oh, you're so much nicer than I would be, like I said. But I
tried.
That's great. No, that's awesome. So now let me go back a little bit. You'd be with War Party Paranormal. And how many investigations have you been on, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh God.
If you have to say that, then it's a lot. Okay. Well, let's move on.
Yeah. I would say a lot.
So let me ask you this. Secondary question to that is this, as you have had these abilities and gone on more and more and more investigations, have you figured out certain things, later on that you didn't know before, besides, the protecting yourself? But is there certain things now that you are more aware of, or maybe, entities that may be different than others? Are you able to differentiate things like that?
I am. And I actually had one of the investigators say to me one time, do you ever see negative energy?
Mhm.
And I said, yeah, but and until he really put me in the position to explain it, I think that I'm so well protected that it takes a lot more for negative energy to come in. So I have a tendency to see the guiding or the protecting energy before I see something else.
Mm.
But that's also because I had to add a secondary level of protection because of some bad experiences that I had.
Mm.
And where I did allow negative energy to just kind of take over, and I had what I called a paranormal drug overdose.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that's
Mm.
because I was not protected. I was wide open and I experienced every bit of the drug overdose as if I was actually having one. It was embarrassing. It was terrible. It was scary. It was gross. So I have a tendency to see the things that are there protecting the area and the positive energy, if it's there, which most of the time there is a positive energy there too, before I see anything that's negative energy. And I have the tendency to use positive and negative energy. I will never, I'm not the person who says it's demonic.
Yeah.
I don't go to that kind of inflammatory thing,
People go there way
right
too quick.
away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I go positive and negative energy. And then it's easier for me to navigate and understand it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I got
that
it.
answers the
No,
question.
no, no. Yeah, absolutely, it does. I mean, because, and I'm glad that you've added layers of protection to yourself because you have to, especially.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad that you don't let yourself open to all those negative energies anymore. I mean, that's just,
Mm-mm.
that's wild. I mean, just letting yourself open. If you could you share maybe a memorable experience that you had on one of your, investigations where your abilities, played a real key role into the whole thing?
If you want me to, I can talk about the drug overdose if you'd like to.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I had a great experience at Waverly Sanatorium.
Hmm.
So whichever one you'd like to talk about, we can talk about. We can start with Waverly because I think,
Please,
yeah, Waverly Hills was probably. Let me back up just a little bit because you
Hmm.
deal with a lot of paranormal investigators, and we all come in with packs and crates and all of this equipment.
Yes, yeah,
I
yeah.
usually bring lip gloss.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Occasionally,
I
I will
respect that though.
remember. Occasionally, I'll remember a flashlight because I don't need it
Hmm.
because everything is here. And then I let everybody else that's really good with the equipment and the more technical side back up what I'm saying. I'll ask the questions, you get the responses. I already know what's coming. I just want you to prove what I'm saying and what's going on. So I have tried to work a little bit more with the equipment, but the more more equipment that's around me, the less sensitive I am. I don't know if it has something to do with the energy that kind of jacks around with my energy. So I prefer to use the simplest equipment that there is.
Right.
So Waverly, for example, we went there and I think there were 6 of us. And Waverly Hills is huge, 5
It's
stories,
ginormous.
plenty of room.
Yeah.
Everybody loves it. I was expecting to be unimpressed. I talk to dead people all the time. What new dead people could I possibly talk to?
About hundreds.
Right. So we get to Waverly. Again, I was really looking forward to the experience, but again, not expecting to be completely impressed. I was impressed.
Yeah.
And probably the most beautiful thing that I saw there was when we were in the body shoot and we set up the music box at the top and we just started walking down. And we got however far we got down. And I said, let's stop here for a minute and turn around. And we turned around and we were looking back towards the top of the body chute. And I said, just watch for a minute. And no sooner did I finish saying that than the music box started going. And I could see people dancing.
Oh, no.
You could see them moving.
Wow.
And I have goosebumps, sorry. And it lasted for an incredible amount of time. And we just stood there. And it was really kind of a beautiful thing to see. And that was the only place we used any equipment. The rest of it, I said, let's just go and sit. And if you've ever been there, it is the darkest place that you will ever be. You can't see your hand right here.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's
so
what
in
I've
the
heard. I've
absence
never
of
been, but I've
all
heard. Yeah.
in the absence of all light, you could still see shadows moving that were darker than dark.
Wow.
How is that possible? I have no idea, but it is. And we sat there and you could feel them moving in and out and past you. You could hear the movement. You could see them just moving back and forth through the hallways. The most incredible experience that I've probably ever had as far as absolute paranormal activity. And the time went by. We were there for, I think, 8 hours. And all of a sudden it's like, what, it's 8 hours already? But it's you just sat there and watched. And these are some of these were very seasoned investigators, and we just sat there. And that's all you needed to do. You didn't need all the high-tech stuff. Sure, a few great EVPs are always nice, but you can see it. You don't need anything else but to see it to know that that's incredible. So that's probably one of the coolest experiences that I've had.
Yeah, Waverly, I've heard is just a mass of just energy, just going through there. Yeah, it's almost, from what I've been told, it's like it's almost its own entity, the whole place. Like it's like, I don't know, that's what they kind of describe.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. It's like everything is very happy to be there. You know, energy can go wherever it wants to go.
Of course.
But it's there because it likes it's there. It's just continuing on its life there. And it's good with that. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I would go back.
Would you? Yeah. Would you?
I would.
Yeah.
And I can't say that about a lot of places. Like, I've been there once, like, let's go do something new. If somebody said, let's go tomorrow, I'm like, okay, I got my lip gloss. Let's go.
Yeah. That's so cool. That's so awesome. Yeah, let me ask you this. A lot of people wonder, you know what I mean? People like myself and others that, know people like you, right? And what is it like? We would like to know, like, what is it like when you connect with the spirit world? Like, how is that experience? Like, how does it feel? Like, what is it like? Is it just like seeing another person that's sitting there? Like, if it was just me, how is that whole experience like?
It depends on the energy. A lot of times for me, if it's someone that I know personally, like, for instance, my grandfather. My grandfather's one of my earliest memories of actually being physically touched by a spirit energy. And he would always come to me in my sleep, grab me by the ankles and wake me up. He never scared me. I always knew it was him. So when he comes to me, I know it's him, and I can see him as clear as day.
Okay.
I can see him watch me. Everything is clear as day as far as he's concerned. Other energies, and for me, I'll always admit when I don't fully understand something. I'm never going to tell you. So for me, because I see, feel, and hear, sometimes I don't know which way it's coming to me.
Gotcha.
Because I get it all. Did I see that? Did I feel that? Or did I hear that? And sometimes it's hard for me to differentiate because I'm getting information in so many different ways. But when I see spirit energy, most of the time I just see a physical feature and then I'm told who it is. I don't always, there goes Tom. I don't know who Tom is, but in here they'll let me know who they are. In my mind, I hear who they are, but then I see them physically. How they feel, how they died, usually presents itself to me in a physical fashion. If there's a head injury, sometimes I'll just start getting a sharp pain. So if it's a heart or a lung situation, it represents itself to me that way. If someone's asking how they died, especially if it's a client who comes to me, because I do run a business where I do also do this.
What's my next question? But go ahead.
Okay. Yes. And they want to know, when I open myself up, when I'm doing a reading for a client and I open myself up to that reading, sometimes everybody funnels in. So I have to start eliminating people that I don't want to talk to. And I usually say, thank you for coming, but you're not the person today. So what I start to do with my clients is I start to give them identifiers. Are we, I'll say I have a male voice here, and they're like, well, I wanted to talk to somebody else. Okay, we just push it. And it's almost like I just swipe him away. Thank you for coming, but have to go. Because sometimes they're looking for someone specific and I have to get to them.
Kind of like a reverse game of Guess Who, right?
Exactly. I mean, I had one client come to me, and this minute I opened myself up, it was almost like I had a stadium. And I'm like, okay, we have to narrow this down.
This is not going to work. Yeah.
Right. Too many people.
Not going to work.
So that's what I'll do. And I'll start to say, okay, I have a male here. He's got dark hair. He's got brown eyes, or whatever the case may be. Looks like he suffered from some lung complications, but I don't think that's what killed him. Ultimately had a stroke or something similar to that, which then lets them know that that's their person. And sometimes they'll say, that is so-and-so, but that's not who I came to talk to. Okay, I'll give whatever message that person came through to say, and then we'll try and move on to somebody else. Because some people want to talk to someone specific. Some people just want to talk to anybody who wants to talk to them. But I always have to give identifiers. Otherwise, I'm just giving them information that may or may not have anything to do with them. So I have to work at getting to the right person for them. And sometimes it's super fast. Other times I will ask for a name so I can call that person directly, especially if a whole bunch of people present themselves all at one time. Then I have to say, okay, we're not looking for, give me the person you're looking for by name, and then I'll try and get to them. And then I start going down the identifying characteristics of them to make sure we pulled forward the right person.
The right person, right. Yeah.
Yes.
That's so interesting. That's so crazy how you could do that. It's so cool. I mean, I envy, but then I know it's a gift and a curse at the same time, right?
It is. And it does get a little bit stressful when someone comes in and they very specifically wanted, and I've dealt with, fortunately, unfortunately, depends on how you look at it, when I really put myself out there, because I started doing readings before I would do any psychic readings. I started doing tarot readings, intuitive readings before I would do psychic readings. But I found that people were coming to me because they really, really wanted to talk to someone who had passed away. And most of those were overdoses.
Whoa, okay.
And it seemed like I got a barrage of people that were coming to me for that very specific reason. And they wanted to know intentional or unintentional. So I really had to put myself in the place where I could accept that information and kind of give it to somebody as honestly as it comes to me, and still
that must be hard, right?
It is hard.
It is like hard. Walking a fence. It's very hard to do that. Yeah.
And I tell everyone who comes to me, I will do everything that I can to turn this into a positive experience, but I will never lie to you about anything. If I hear it, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to try and spin it as, at least we have our lesson now, or at least we know now. I do try to always make it a positive, outcome, so they don't feel, bad when they leave, but give them the information that was given to me to give to them. And I don't lie. Yeah.
Well, it's funny.
And that's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. It's an old saying that I've been told. It's like, those that seek will find.
Absolutely. And
whether you're prepared for it or not, that has nothing to do with anything else.
That's right.
Preparation is on you. It has nothing to do with anything else that's happening. That's right. In the universe.
And I'm giving you the message, whether you're ready to hear it or not.
I love that. So let me ask you this. So you do also, like we were talking about, personal readings and helping individuals and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about more about that and how you help people as well.
Okay. So my business is called Angie Spiritual Readings. I have an office in Jupiter. I do tarot readings. I'm an empath. I do the psychic medium work, and I do a lot with emotional trauma recovery as well.
Oh, okay.
Because I found that a lot of times when people are coming to you because they are seeking some sort of guidance, they want to know what's going on in their life, but they also need to know how they got there. So I found that when I started doing the mediumship work, especially with people who had lost somebody, they really were looking for a way to recover from that as well. So that kind of got me into the trauma part of that. And then it kind of expanded. And I worked for years on several methods to help people with the emotional trauma recovery, whether it's generational or situational. So that kind of expanded into that.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let me ask you real quick, and then I'm gonna jump
Sure.
over real fast. But generational stuff, that's something that's very interesting to me because that is something that I don't think enough people really talk about. Really,
Agree.
It's something that, to me, it's inherently, apparently, obviously, it's there, but people just seem to overlook it. And tell me a little bit about that. And, some of my listeners may not know about it. I know about it, you know about it, but if you could kind of describe what that is.
Okay. And just so you know, book number 2 is about the trauma.
Okay.
This one, awesome. The first one is, the second one's almost done too, but that will be coming out for a while. But that's about kind of that trauma healing. Okay. So essentially what I call it, there's 2 different types of trauma. There's a time date stamp trauma. Something happened on this day, easy to identify. I know what happened. I need to heal from that. I need to reassess and move on from that. Then there's the generational trauma. That's the trauma that we don't even know that's happening as it's happening. It just becomes part of who we are almost by default. And it usually causes our behaviors today to not be the way we want them to be. We might be overly anxious. We might have attachment or detachment situations in our relationships. We might be hostile. We might be aggravated for reasons that we don't know. And primarily what happens, especially in relationships, whether they romantic or friend relationships, what happens is we're inadvertently triggered by a person today for something that they didn't even do. We bleed on someone who didn't cut us. But we're reacting from a coping mechanism that got us through childhood, whether that was being a people pleaser because, we had to walk on eggshells and always make sure everybody was happy, or whether that's constantly being attracted to a partner that is not healthy because that chaos is familiar. And we wind up getting ourselves into situations, all of us throughout our life, reacting from a place of trauma. We don't like it, but it's what we know. Excuse me. And it's easier
kind of like a spiritual codependency, huh?
It is. It's easier for us to cope with the chaos that we know than to try something new because we don't know what that is.
Right.
So, and, I have a lot of male clients as well. And the way that I usually start specifically with male clients is usually by saying to them, you were put at a huge disadvantage throughout your entire life. You were told to walk it off. You were told to rub some dirt in it and quit acting like a baby and move on, which means that you were never allowed to process emotional issues with any kind of consistency. So men have a tendency to lack emotional regulation. They're either all in or all out. And that's kind of a generational trauma. And of course, I'm using some generalizations here for sake of this.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's the situation primarily with men. With women, we were taught that it is our job to make everybody else happy. It's our job to nurture. It's our job to protect. It's our job to be the emotional regulators.
Buckle up, Buttercup, right?
Right? That's right. That's right. And we were, in some of that generational trauma. Crazy. Also, if you're not demure, if you don't put your partner on a pedestal, then you're not really a good wife, are you? So we kind of have that generational trauma as well. And a lot of times they're very different, but the effects are very similar. They affect how we relate to everybody in our lives, whether they're friend groups or romantic partnerships.
Yeah, you're on.
And because we still care about the family member, it makes it hard. It makes it hard to separate from them sometimes too, or to say, I don't like the way that is. So I take people back in this method that I've worked on for multiple years. We go back to specific incidents and we rework it with an adult brain as opposed to the way we process it with a child's brain. And then we navigate through that. It's not a one and done. It's a long process, but it's a process that's worth it.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And it's so funny how, children are so much more open and, able to receive because of just their mindset, and
Absolutely.
That's something that we lose. Just like you said, we lose that as we get older,
We
as
do.
we become an adult, that just, the blinders are on at that point and forget about it, What kind of advice could you give to somebody who's had, let's say like a near-death experience and maybe, starts to maybe feel that they have some type of abilities? What advice would you give somebody like that?
My first piece of advice I give to anybody is protect yourself first. That's the first thing. A lot of people want to nurture, and they think the way to nurture this gift is to expose themselves to everything. I think the exact opposite. Yeah. Expose yourself to the smallest increments, allow those to be manageable, and then add from there. And that's how you can expand. It's okay to find someone who knows more and work under them, get some knowledge from them. But opening yourself up is the worst thing that I think that people can do, because you're setting yourself up for a meltdown. You're setting yourself up for no sleep. You're setting yourself up for what seems like constant chaos, and it's overwhelming. So my best piece of advice is small little doses, learn how to protect yourself, and it's okay to say no, not today. That's the best piece of advice I could get.
That's awesome. No, absolutely. I mean, again, people have these things and they don't know how to deal with them. And, luckily enough for you, you were able to kind of figure it out and, put the pieces together, through obviously a lot of time and a lot of effort, of course. And, I definitely applaud you for that. That's awesome. And I'm so happy that you're able to, pass along this information too, because that's really the most important part of all this at the end of the day. It's the information that we pass over. We all are going to pass at one point and some time. Yeah, but it's about the information that we pass over as well.
Absolutely.
And the people that we affect. So let me ask you one other question about that.
Sure.
Any practices or techniques that, that you may use to hone your abilities that you might recommend to others? Is there anything in particular that you would recommend?
I know that a lot of people recommend meditation because that allows you to clear your mind of everything else. But I find specifically with empaths that meditation can be very difficult, because the minute we try to clear our mind of the real noise, all the other noise comes in.
Right.
So what I started to do was talk to people that I already knew. They're friendly.
Right.
I already know them. They're going to talk to me. And I always start out, and I tell people, when you want to talk to someone, don't start out the questioning. So like, what are you doing? Are you dead? How's it over there? I always say, I recommend to, when my clients come in and say, I'd really like to talk to my mom who passed away. I say, you can, but do it when you're doing something else. Best time to do it is when you're mopping your floors. Putting away the dishes, putting away the groceries, and just start to have a conversation with, I went to the grocery store today. God, Mom, can you believe how much eggs are? And just listen. Just having a normal conversation. Don't ask all the questions. Don't ask the big things. Where'd you put your jewelry? They're not going to answer that question first conversation. So just start to build a rapport, and they'll come to you sooner and less space of time. When you do try to have a conversation, the conversations will be more apparent and more clear. And then once you start to build that rapport, then you can get into some of the things that you really wanted to talk about. And so that's kind of how I always suggest that people do it. Do it when you're doing something else.
Yeah. Great advice. I totally think that's great advice. A couple of final questions before I let you go for tonight. And you've been such a great guest, and thank you again.
Thank you.
I want to, just Thank you so much. I mean, it's great to have you on this.
I
This
appreciate that. Thank you very
podcast.
much.
Yeah, let me ask you this: your experience as a psychic medium and an empath, uh, how's that changed your understanding of life and death and the afterlife?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Yeah,
I know scientifically that energy never dies.
that's
So
right.
I know that it's always here.
Mhm.
How it's changed my perception is, I still want to believe that I can talk to anybody. And I still want to believe that people are protected in the afterlife, even if they had a horrible existence on this life. And I always want to believe that because of a karmic contract and the things that we agreed to learn in this lifetime, that when we pass away, we go to school, so to speak, and a chance to kind of repent for the things we didn't do so well in this life. And so I believe that our afterlife is very long, because we have a lot to learn still. I believe that our energy is reborn after we learn the things that we get to learn in the afterlife. Um, do I still am I cavalier about people passing? No. When someone passes away, do I go, well, we'll see them next lifetime?
Right.
No.
Yeah,
I'm still sad and I still miss them.
of course.
Um, has it changed? I guess the biggest change for me is just that I know that I'm going to do the best I can do so that I don't have to spend as long in school when I die.
There you
That's
go.
kind That's
Yeah,
kind of what I'm
yeah,
hoping for, that I
yeah.
can learn as much in this lifetime as I possibly can so that so I get to have some fun in my afterlife and not just spend
There
all
you go.
time in remedial courses for the stuff that I didn't get to learn. And
Yeah,
so
you
that
want
I
to be in
get to
summer
come
school.
back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
want to have
yeah.
to do all the studying
The
again.
longest summer school ever.
Right. Yes, that was a 300-year long summer school. No
Summer school.
fun. Yeah. So,
Another question. Looking back on
okay.
your journey, what are you most grateful for in discovering, your abilities and everything? What are you most grateful for?
I am grateful that I get the opportunity to give some kind of relief to the people who come to me that feel lost.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
because there's nothing worse than feeling lost or feeling like you have no one that will understand you. So I think that's the thing that means the most to me, that I
Mhm.
get to help people re-narrate their life so that they can take the positives and understand that there are lessons and understand that we're here to learn. And it's not about how many times we didn't learn, but it's about what we did learn in the step with every step that we got to take.
Mm,
So I think that's probably what's most important is a little bit of comfort and a little bit of
yeah,
solace.
yeah. Third book, re-narrating your life. That's the title.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Let's
awesome.
get these first two go really
I know,
off.
I know. Let's get the first two out. Let's do that first.
Yeah.
One
Yeah. It's been
last
a labor of
question.
love.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. And you know what? It is, all these things that we do, obviously everybody has a 9 to 5 and things like that, and other things that they do in their life to bring in income. But these are labors of love, that we do when it comes to
Right.
paranormal investigating. What you do and helping people as well. I mean, that's a real labor of love, really,
It
and it
is.
doesn't
And I do.
go.
And I love it. I love, love, love what I do.
Yeah, yeah, you can
Love
tell
it.
because I
Yeah.
can tell the excitement in your eyes when you talk about it, and you
Oh,
have a
thank
very good
you.
understanding about this. What are your future plans besides the books? Anything else besides that?
Well, I do want to continue to build my business
Mm-hmm.
so that I can help more people. That's kind of important to me.
Mm-hmm.
The
That's
books are
Angie
really important to me.
Spiritual
Angie Spiritual Readings.
Readings.com. Yep,
Yep.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yep. And I'm on IG, Facebook, and I have a website.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to take the trauma healing concept into
Yeah.
kind of a format that people can
Mm-hmm.
come in and kind of a larger group format and then have the tools that they can take to their spiritual advisor or a therapist or within themselves and kind of work through some of that kind of stuff with some guidance and with some help and understanding. That's
Yeah.
kind of probably my biggest goal is to get kind of a larger format with
Mhm.
that method of trauma healing.
Yeah, I think, again, like we talked about earlier, it's one of the more utilized just there's not enough attention to it. And I think a lot more attention needs to be put to it. And
I agree.
it goes right in hand with your mental health. You know what I mean? Spiritual health, mental health is all the same thing at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
no, listen, Angie, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. You've been such a great guest.
I thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And maybe we'll talk again soon.
No, absolutely. Listen, I definitely want to get together with you maybe sometime, and maybe we could do a paranormal investigation sometime, maybe in the future. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Again, Angie,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yesteryear Village.
AngieSpiritualReadings.com. Oh, I'm not far from
Yeah,
there at
come
all.
to,
So
look up the next one, Yesteryear Village, and you can come as my guest.
awesome. Awesome. I really appreciate that. But
Yes.
again, AngieSpiritualReadings.com. You can go there and check that out. And I'm sure once the book comes out, all the announcements will be there on the website. So make
Yes.
sure you stay on top of that website and stay tuned to when Angie's books come out. Again, Angie, thank you so much for coming on Dark Fringe Radio.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a good night.
Thanks. You too.
All right.